A moment later, the hut thudded down around him. A driftwood cage. Comfortable? The first man sauntered through the sand toward Reese, and the other man followed. Reese shoved his huge 6-foot-5-inch frame hard against the driftwood logs that made up the ceiling and grunted. Nothing. The structure was like concrete bolted to the ground. Don't exhaust yourself. You won't escape. You can't stop me. Reese reached out and wrenched on the wood in front of him, but it didn't budge. Of course we can. The man laughed as he bent down, his face inches from the wood, and stared into Reese's eyes. If you try, we'll take you out again, like last time so long ago. You think you're ready to train them? You're not even close. You know that. So do we. Consider this a friendly warning for old time's sake. Stay away from the four. Drop the idea of taking them to Wellspring. Cancel the trip. If you do, we won't go after them, and we'll leave you alone. All those concerned will be much happier. In the name of Jesus, get out of... Goodbye, Reese. Please, believe us, it will be extremely unprofitable for you, and for the four, if you attempt to go through the gateway into someone's soul ever again. Consider what is about to happen in the next few seconds, an example as to what would come your way if you do. The second man winked at Reese, then swirled his toe in the sand in a tight circle. As he did, the ground under Reese's knees and palms gave way, and he was sucked down into the sand. Grains poured over his head and forced their way into his mouth, covering his tongue and scraping down his throat. He choked, his head jerking forward, his lips parting, allowing more sand to jam its way into his mouth. He tried to suck in a breath through his nose, but the sand filled it. The sand around his body thickened, pressing Reese's arms against his hips, pressing the remaining air out of his lungs. The darkness surrounding him grew and seemed to fill his mind. No, fight this, have to get out of here. The pressure on his body increased, and the blackness swallowed him. Your blood, Jesus, your power, now. Chapter 2. An instant later, the sand around Reese vanished. Early morning sun shot through the maple trees in his backyard and spilled over him. He heaved forward in his chair, huge coughs racking his body and filling the Pacific Northwest air. He blinked and gasped, his hands clenching the arms of his teak chair. How long had he been? His watch said 7:15. He'd been inside for an hour and a half. Too long. He shouldn't have pushed it that far. Reese stared at the fire pit in front of him. The flames had died out, but the coals still burned red, throwing off enough heat to warm his hands. He let the warmth seep into his palms for a moment, then rubbed them against his face and over his head. He shivered in spite of the fire. The sweat that soaked through his Beatles t-shirt made the cool late spring morning colder. He slipped onto his knees on the stamped concrete that surrounded the fire pit and leaned forward, hands on his legs. I can't do this, Lord. I'm not ready. It's time, and there is little time left for you to do what must be done. You saw what happened in there. Yes. And I'm supposed to train them to do what I didn't just do? Silence. You heard what they told me, Lord. Nothing. Reese stayed on his knees for another 5 minutes, allowing his emotions to settle. Finally, he rose to his feet, grabbed the thick, gnarled stick next to the ring of large stones that made up his fire pit, and spread out the coals. No chance of a spark lighting anything on fire, even if it did escape, but it couldn't hurt to be safe. He stared at the embers as he moved the stick through them in a slow circle. Should he postpone the trip? Get more prepared? Going in this morning should have been simple. The soul he'd entered should have been a safe place to practice. It made no sense. It was meant to be a straightforward exercise, a test to make sure he still knew how to go.